Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode of Circle of Hope. My name is Valerie Hope. I am your host. I would love to just introduce you to people in my life who form part of my circle, but more than anything, have conversations about what it's like to create the connections that help us learn and grow. Today's special guest is actually, I don't know if you remember this or you know this, AJ, but AJ Thomas and I are coaches. We're both executive coaches, and we met through Berkeley Executive Leadership Program. But AJ, at the time we met, you and I, actually, you were not even a coach yet, I don't believe. You were the liaison, I believe, for a Google project that I'd been hired to work on. And this is my first memory of you, AJ, because
What is it? Oh
you,
gosh, oh gosh.
no, it was beautiful. It was so lovely. I don't even remember why or how it ever came to be, but I don't know how many people were in this program, but we were all meeting online in all these little boxes. And the facilitator of the program, I want to say it was Doy, who was the
Our lovely
CEO,
friend Joy.
our friend Doy, the CEO of the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. I want to say it was him, or maybe it was Jenny Kalashu, who's the
Maybe.
marketing director. They tapped you to sing a song, either at the beginning of the program or at the end of the program. And you were
Mm.
sitting in your backyard or something. You were like in the patio of some
Oh.
sort, outdoors,
Mm.
and you sang like Over the Rainbow, I want to say. Was it Over the Rainbow?
It was. Oh my word. Yes. I remember where I was. I was in Yuba City. I was taking a call.
Ah,
And I was out. Yes, I remember. That was during the practicum for one of the cohorts. And I
that's
had
yes.
brought you guys into Google X to do some coaching for my people there. Yeah.
That's what it was. And it was just like the most random thing. I mean, not random for Berkeley, because we have a lot of music is a big
We
part
do.
of the program,
That's right. Music and
ironically,
theater.
music and theater. But I was just like so surprised and
Oh.
impressed that a client, it wasn't like you were one of the coaches doing it. Although I think you may have, had you gone through the program already at that point?
I think I was still getting certified at that point. So I
Oh,
hadn't gone the full circle yet. Oh my gosh, it was
okay.
like 5 years ago,
It
Val.
was, I know. So
Wow.
I don't know. That's my first memory of you. I'm just recalling that
Oh, I
moment
love
now.
it.
And we didn't really have a chance to connect, you and I, for years after, actually, because then we were
Mm-hmm.
hired to be on a project and a couple of projects at the same time. And there we started to interact more.
Yeah.
And I think, more than anything, the laughter, our groups are fun. The coaches are just
Yes,
amazing people, humans, not just coaches. And
that's right.
I think what I've enjoyed the most about getting to know you is you're not just artistic and not just sharp as a professional, but you're such a
Mm,
big heart. I think every space that you
mm,
occupy, whenever
thank
I've been
you.
in the group or whenever you've been included in those groups, we have a sense of lightness and joy and just
Oh,
deep
thanks,
connection.
Val.
So it's nice to have a bunch of different levels in one human. We don't just stay at
Oh,
the professional intellectual. We've had some deep, soul
we have.
serving conversations, but also like fun, goofy stuff too.
Oh my God, I love what you just said. You said soul surfing sessions.
Serving, but
Yes.
that sounds great too.
Surfing, surfing,
Let's say, yeah, I said surfing. I meant surfing. Like we're surfing right
Well,
now, just kind of
that's
surfing through the
right.
convo.
We're just soul surfing right now. I love it.
Why do you love that so much? What was it about that
I don't
term?
know, but you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know how to swim. Anyway, there's that lightness.
Ah, there's that
You
lightness
you
there.
you invited it. It
I
walked right
knew,
in.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was here for the taking. That's good. Um, so first
Yeah.
of all, I think one, just so grateful that you said yes to being here.
Thank you.
Because there's so many things I know that you have to share that other people will find interesting and perhaps inspiring and compelling. But before we get into the nitty-gritty
Thanks.
stuff, I always like to always know two things. One is
Hmm.
what was it about this invitation that you said yes to? Like why?
Hmm. Hmm.
And do you have any recollection of how you and I have built this friendship, acquaintanceship, if you call it that? Because we don't see
Oh
each other very
no.
often.
Yeah, and definitely as a friend. I think
Okay.
friendships are. awesome because I mean, like, I think you and I, when we see each other, we kind of like just pick up where we left off. There's no,
Good.
oh, and by the way, how is you know,
Yeah.
there's no kind of like preamble. We're just kind of in it. And so I love those kinds of friendships because it means you really have a true connection.
Mhm.
I think for me, like, why did I say yes? I mean, gosh, Valerie, I think the work that you do is so amazing. Talk about, so like you described all these things about light and joy, like you are literally our joy personified. And so there's always
I have a
laughter when there's in
t-shirt.
the
I have a
room.
t-shirt.
Look at you,
Connected
connected
joy.
joy.
I know.
See, there you go.
I had to
So, I'm
embody
proud of
it
that. Literally on your body.
on my
Uh,
body.
but I just always feel like your light reflects on others as well. And there's been many times where we've gone through, you know, over the years, these programs that we've been in, where we've both been coaches in, where you know you literally take the darkness out of the room and crack open that curtain and that window, and I feel like that's how you live your life. And so I was like, I would love to be a part of what that looks like.
Mm.
And so when you asked, I was like, yes, of course I'd do this for my friend. And then two, I
Oh.
just know we'll have a lot of fun. And yeah, my
Mm.
recollection, like I said already, I mean, of all the times that we've kind of come together, you know, you as a coach also is really amazing because I think you're human first, not coach first. Like you really
Mhm.
tap into folks' humanity and their light.
Mhm.
And I think in many ways it amplifies what they probably didn't even know was possible. And so you did that for
Mm.
me in many
Mhm.
ways. In all the years we've been to DC, Atlanta, I mean, where
Yeah.
else have we been? All over, right? And so
Yeah.
I love how in service you are to that light. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. My need for
Thanks.
acknowledgement and appreciation has been met. Goodbye.
Hey,
Goodbye.
goodbye.
We're good. Oh, you came for exactly what I needed.
See what I mean?
That's it. Um, well, I want to go back to something that you said earlier about the
Mhm.
friendship piece. One
Yeah.
is I don't like being called Val, by the way. So if we're
Mm,
friends,
mm,
friends don't call
mm,
me
mm,
Val, Valerie
mm,
straight up, primarily because
mm-hmm.
Val was like eighth grade Valentino, who was like a pain in the
Oh,
neck in class. I was Valerie because I'm like, I am not Val. He's a troublemaker. So we'll
hey,
just get that
hey,
out
I'm
of
a
the way.
troublemaker. I'm a troublemaker.
That's
That's
true. You
probably
are
why.
trouble, but you
Felt
you
it.
you
I
self
felt it.
proclaimed troublemaker. um, but then I want to you said something about how we tend to pick up where we left off, which is absolutely true. And I want to
Yeah.
touch on that because I think it would be helpful for people who are watching or listening to this to understand the dynamic that creates that. So
Hmm.
what is it? What from your best recollection? It doesn't have to be just about me. I'm sure that there are other people in your
Yeah.
life with whom you have that
Yeah.
dynamic. What is it that creates that dynamic where you can have someone that you don't
Yeah.
see for months, maybe years, and it's like
Hmm.
no time had passed next time you see each other? What's that about?
Yeah, you know what? That's really great that you asked that because I've had many of those moments where I'm also reconnecting with folks I haven't talked to in 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just in LA last week with a dear friend of mine who we hadn't connected live probably in 10 years, but we'd known each other since we were 8 years old. And so
Wow.
it is a 30 plus year friendship that we have had, which has been really amazing. And we literally picked up right where we left off. On the other side, I've had
That's my
friends where I've
Barbie. That's my Barbie.
Wait, do you remember that one time? So yeah, all the trauma comes out. No, I'm kidding.
Uh-oh.
So I think like for me, what's been really awesome is I've also been in situations where I haven't seen somebody in a while, so you know the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're in the conversation where you're just really attaching to the surface level things, and there's not really like that connection or that bond. I think it's more of a spiritual thing that you feel with somebody when it
Mm-hmm.
does happen. And I think the spiritual bond is this like mutual curiosity in each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you probably felt it before when you're trying to connect with somebody and they're like, "Oh, I got my wall up. You can only be this far in."
Sure.
And I think for the folks where it kind of feels like I've connected with them, but also feels like we pick up right where we left off, I kind of offer that curiosity and like, how are things going on? Or I'll come back to, do you remember
Yeah.
that one time? And usually if they're more open, it allows for kind of that flow. So it's always a two-way thing. It's never like a
Yeah.
one way, I feel this way and the
Yeah.
other person does. But I have
That'd
very,
be so
I
awkward.
have, yeah, I'd be like, So I'm going to ask you 9 questions. No, I'm kidding. On my 10th question, so what I actually love about this conversation is that, when you're connecting with others, there's that mutual curiosity that I
Yeah.
think needs to happen for a deeper connection to take place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just transactional, and it's I'm literally just here because I met you, and this is how it's going.
Mm,
Versus, I've connected with you. I know a little bit more. I'm curious more about what you're doing. So I
yeah.
think that gives us a really great opportunity to unpack that mutual curiosity.
Yeah, I think the curiosity has a lot to do with it. And I like what you said about, or it resonates for me when you said this idea of it being reciprocal. Because it would be incredibly
Mhm.
awkward if you were like, oh my gosh, how's your daughter? How's your son? Remember that? And you're like, I'm sorry, can you tell me your name again?
Yeah,
Like, oh my gosh, I thought we really connected.
yeah,
So
yeah, but I
this,
don't know your name.
like, I don't know your name, and how do I know you?
Yeah, yeah. I don't even remember.
So I mean, it could happen, right? It's not the wildest thing that could
Mhm.
ever happen. It could happen that we
Mhm.
have somebody with whom we really connected, and it's been it made a significant emotional impact. But I think what you said are also about this idea that it's a spiritual thing and the soul surfing
Yes.
aspect. Because I think
Yeah.
one thing that at least is happening, even as we're speaking, you and I have not spoken to one another in like
Oh
any
my gosh.
meaningful way. We sent a couple of texts and
In a
maybe
while.
emails,
Yeah.
but we hadn't
Yeah.
had a meaningful conversation since what? It's been like six
October.
months. Yeah, October
October
2025. Yeah,
2024. You're going in the
24.
future.
Whoa, I mean, it's October. Do you remember
Oh man,
October in
yeah,
the
it's been a
future?
minute. Yeah. Do you remember October in the future? Oh my word. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm
so
going
it's
to
been
use
like
that.
7 months or so, and we hadn't
Mhm.
had a meaning. And even then, we're in this program for this amount of time, and we're like in this very
Yeah.
intensive, living kind of experience. And then we go all back to our homes, and we don't really talk to each other. So,
That's right.
so I think there's something about this dynamic that it is spiritual because what I sense, and you can tell me what you think here, but what I sense is that it's not so much that like we're curious about like your day to day. Yes, of course I want to hear how's your family doing? Is
Mhm.
everybody
Mhm.
okay? You're good? Yeah, but I think it's the experience of being with each other that matters
Yeah.
more than the content. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, again, when you're super hyper present, I think you
Yes.
you feel things more instead of think about things more. And so I think for me, what's been really, valuable in a lot of these connections, some I'm rekindling, some I'm making brand new. Some people I've met and I feel like I have known them forever.
Yes, that
Some people
happens.
I've met and I'm like, I met you like 9 times. I don't even remember. So it's I mean, that's weird. It happens to
Sure,
everyone, right? And
sure.
I think
It's
it's just
human.
this ability to be in sync with each other's energies that's
Yeah.
really interesting when it comes in the form of that kind of connection, right? But
Mm,
mutual curiosity, I think, is super important.
that's
That has
important.
to be that has to be a thing. Aside from the
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
because there's like mutual, like I love it when people are like, oh, I we're so like-minded. It actually sometimes makes me cringe when I hear like-minded. I'd rather be
Mhm.
more like with like-missioned people because it means we can
Ooh.
actually either debate or dialogue about something we're both curious about, but we may not know if we're even right or wrong in it. There's like a nice little dance you can do with between humans around what that looks like. That's not just parroting each other, but actually
Mm.
helping each other grow and challenge each other. So yeah, the like-mindedness kind of sometimes I smile and oh yeah, like-minded. That's great. Like I want to be in a room full of like-missioned people that may or may not even agree with what I'm thinking, but will
Yeah.
help challenge me and help grow me. And so I think those are the folks I make true connections with, as well, right? Not just
Mm.
affinity, but like
Yeah.
deep connection.
Yeah. Well, I think it's embodied in that word and that phrase, the idea that like mission people, someone that's moving in the same direction as you are, potentially,
Mhm.
perhaps on parallel paths, but completely different expressions of that path, right?
Right,
In
right.
completely different circles, you have different friendships, you have different
Hmm.
outcomes and destination, but it's fulfilling perhaps the same vision on the planet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So speaking to that, let's tap back into your own career path for this example, and
Sure.
you might have other
Yeah,
things
yeah,
to
yeah.
share. But when I met you, you were working with Google. That was your world. You were, singing on patios
Hmm.
and doing, I don't know, open mics or whatever you were.
I love it.
So talk to us about the transition you've made from that world and that career to where you are now in this venture
Yeah.
capitalist system that what happened? Like, I don't even know that story. How did that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's no, that's a really good one. Here's what I'll say to kind of like hang everything on. If you know me, or even if you don't know me, one thing you should know is that I have always worked jobs I've never done before.
Mm,
Literally, if you look at my resume or whatever semblance of it is out there on LinkedIn, I mean, I like to kind of tell people that I've been a professional dancer of sorts the past few decades, starting in sales, going into operations, going into product. My first job when I went into a company to help, take them IPO was an internal comms manager role. I had no business doing that role other than I was curious about what I could do to impact it and reimagine it. And then eventually, 3.5 years later, I ended up leading their end-to-end talent management, which led me to another role that eventually took me into my first C-level role, which then eventually took me to my first Fortune 100 company, and then working with Alphabet and Google X. So it's been really interesting. I think the pivot from all of those things in a what I would say a job corporate environment, right? I've always been a one Crayola short of a crayon box. Because I've always been trying to find that color elsewhere to add into the
interesting.
box.
Yeah.
And what's been really wonderful in transitioning into this space was, again, it led me from a curious standpoint. I was already at a point, I had had probably three different roles at Alphabet, at Google X. When I was there, I first came on as their head of people products, which was basically leading all of human capital, talent management, people innovation, leadership, development, operations, analytics. So there was like a whole bunch of things that I was leading in that regard. Transitioned then into more of a talent role, leading the global talent space, and then really looking at fulfilling a leadership role across the portfolio to help build out these companies. And it was a transition space for me. I think the privilege and the opportunity of working at Google is you can actually pursue things that might be interesting to you. I had already gone through grad school, done my undergrad in business, etc., and decided to go to finance school. I enrolled in Columbia's executive MBA program, focused on venture capital and private equity. And the reason why was because I was kind of bit by this portfolio bug. I was already advising venture capital firms. I was coaching actually
Mm,
three different VCs, CEOs in those VC firms, and I was really fascinated by the problem spaces and opportunities that these CEOs and founders were facing,
mm,
right? Transitioning from a founder to a CEO, when is that the right time? Hiring the right leaders, when would that be the right time? All the way down to how am I spending my time? What are my own personal
mm,
values? And so my gateway into venture capital actually came through my realization and love for coaching. And
mm,
that was interesting for me because I was able to walk the fire with these very accomplished leaders, individuals, and humans without having to have the very deep expertise of what they know, because all I
mm,
had to do was unearth that in them and have the right
mhm,
activating question at the right time. You know this as a coach, right?
yeah.
And be able to connect with them in that way and became a very invaluable asset for them on their team. Not so much like Wendy Rhodes, by the way. It's a very different
I have
I
no
don't know,
idea
for
what that is.
folks that watch the show Billions, there's a character named Wendy Rhodes. She's kind of
Okay.
interesting. But really more the person that holds space for that vision and
Yeah.
like how to help tactically realize that through their own mirroring some of the things that they already know internally. And I said, hey, what would be really interesting is, yeah, I'm going to go to finance school. I will say, like, the short and long of that is venture capital and private equity was a space I didn't really know about. When I was a CHRO at auction.com, we were going to go public and decided then that the transaction was best for employees and all shareholders to be acquired by a private equity firm. So I had my first bite of absorbing a merger and acquisition, an M&A,
Mm,
doing a joint venture and a carve out. So I was tertiary to all of it. I wasn't
mm,
involved in the transaction, but really more so the pre-work and the aftermath of it.
okay.
And so it led me to this curiosity around what do financial markets and economics actually have to do with the human capital work that needs to happen, right?
Mm,
So I went into this Columbia program with the intent to learn from out of my curiosity what I could bend, break, and honor in the current system.
okay.
And that's actually how Good Trouble came about. And I
The
was at
name of
Transform.
your firm.
The name of the venture firm is Good Trouble Ventures. We're an early stage firm. We are investing in what I would call tech-enabled creativity in the spaces of IP and content, data analytics, and tech infrastructure, specifically for media and entertainment and creative works.
Why does it
So
sound like you're talking? This is like a pitch deck that you have delivered many times.
yeah,
And
many times.
it's smooth, smooth. Okay, so
Oh,
for those
you
that
should have heard you should have heard it a year and a half ago. It was like, what are you
oh,
doing? I had
what's she
no idea
talking
what.
about?
Are you
Ooh.
investing in musicals? No, no,
But-
no, no,
so
not at
for
all.
those of us that are not in that field, we're not VC enabled or tech enabled.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
just see if I can just kind of
Please.
take the nuggets that I got from what you've shared so far. Like the big news is that the transition that you made into this world, you already had an interest in business. You already had an interest
Yeah.
in finance, which is why you pursued that as part of your
Hmm.
academic formation. But this idea of now being able to support and to coach individuals who were in the space of seeing how big they can make their business, how
Yeah.
solid they could make their business, and helping them tap into their own education and knowledge was what activated you.
Hmm.
So you left the corporate structure that you had been involved in for so many years to take on your own. You started your own venture, basically, a venture of helping other venture capitalists, it sounds like, support their mission. So
Yeah.
you're really helping other like mission people is kind of
Like
what you
mission
moved
people.
to. So, but
Yeah.
so just a question around that transition. Who or what was the moment that sparked you to go, okay, I'm gonna leave this other world that I've been in for several years and move into this particular, like, what was that moment? What was it that you heard or saw, or
Yeah.
who did you talk to?
What was my why not me moment? It was literally a why not me moment. I mean, I think in a space where, and we've heard all this before, and I don't know why the number's always 2%. But less than 2% of women get funding in venture capital. 2% of founders are women that are funded. I mean, it's always the number 2%. So I don't know, like actually want to take a look at that.
Um,
But I think for me, what it sparked was I get to actually blend my creative self into what I'm going to be doing every single day. So, one of the things about me, I don't know if you know this, maybe some people do. I was signed to a record label when I was 15. So it was so
mm.
apropos that you met me singing.
And then you have
But
all
it,
these, guitars hanging on the wall. So if you guys are
my
watching this and you're watching, you'll see that there's music in her background,
that's that's
literally.
a That's the P base right there. Yeah, so I think for me, I got myself into these situations where I would always want to bring that creative expression of myself to wherever I
Mm,
was. Sometimes it was appropriate in a boardroom, sometimes it was not. Sometimes it was me fronting the Google X band, which I did
mhm.
do for a couple years, which was
There
really,
was a
really fun.
band.
We did. We had a band. We
Oh,
played at product launches and holiday parties, by the way.
fabulous. Okay.
So, I mean, it was just a way for
Mm,
me to actually be in the industry that I know helps shift culture and influence,
Mm,
opportunities because of how people feel and what
mm,
they see and how they experience something, food, music, creativity, art, it moves you into a certain space. And I think for me, if I was going to go in and start really doing investing, and again, Google was taking, or the Moonshot Factory was taking a pivot at this time to really look at commercializing a lot of the in-house moonshot bets we were making. And I said, gosh, well, they had a really large climate portfolio. And while I'm passionate about, leaving the world a better place, I am much more passionate about creativity and the spirit by which you unearth the native agency of creators in every single human being.
mm,
And so I said, wow, okay, this could be something that I explore. I didn't know what I was going to get myself into. I didn't know who I was going to meet. I didn't know the thing about the thing other than the system by which it operated in by the book, right?
mm,
Learning about it in school was a lot of theory, but then actually making investments while I was coaching in different portfolios and seeing, being an angel investor, having the opportunity to really have a very expensive hobby of losing your money. Um, but, it trained me on how to have discernment around how to make great decisions and see long term and what does that actually look like, which are all skills you have to use today to be a really
yeah.
great, investor, right? And so I think for me, it wasn't a moment, it was
Okay.
just this like wave of, um, why not you?
Mm,
Why not you? And you know what? Even if you don't know, you're gonna go figure it out
mm.
because of the nature of how I am as a person,
Well,
right?
like you said, you
So,
every job you've had, you've never done before. So this is in
yeah,
alignment with
yeah.
that spirit, that pioneer, kind of a pioneering spirit that you have
Mm-hmm.
around
Mm-hmm.
your career and around your building,
Right.
your trust in
Right.
yourself that you'll figure it out and learn as you go. Um,
Yeah.
so when you think about who you support now or what like, this expensive hobby that you mentioned, it's just not a hobby, it's not a calling. It sounds like it's a calling for
Yeah.
you. When you
There's a
think about
purpose.
yeah, it's very, very purposeful. When you think about where you lean into, how do you chart a path as a pioneer? Like, what do you say? Oh, I think I'm going to check this out over here.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
decision there? How'd that go?
I think part of it is like being really curious around big opportunity spaces and problems that people are solving that may not just be like easy things to solve, right? I think,
Hmm.
for example, the music and film industry has been really interesting to dive into and get to know folks in because, the past few years, these industries have taken a beating. The incumbents in this industry, the major record labels and the major studios have been very much disrupted by the technology advancement and they haven't been part of that conversation. So now there's this like adverse reaction between
Hmm.
two industries that actually at the end of it, if you look and zoom out, would actually be really great for humanity if they
Hmm.
did co-create. Okay.
Hmm.
And but co-creation takes intention from two sides having the conversation starting at the blank page, not when someone's already built the tech and then by the way, music industry, go use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I think for me, like how you chart the path is like I like to go where the pain is.
Hmm.
So I will ask questions. I mean, like in our fund, we have creatives in residence versus just entrepreneurs in residence. We believe that you really have to understand the mind of a creative in order to blend their unique special sauce of how they bring a business to life. I mean, if you think about the major brands that you see, the major songs or movie franchises or things that you've experienced, backing behind that creativity really is solid business, right? And
Hmm.
so I think creatives actually are apt to be amazing entrepreneurs. It's
Hmm.
just they don't share that same language. And so
Hmm.
for me to chart a path, what I like to do is I like to say, and again, this is why this movement is in honor of what the late Senator John Lewis has built with equality. We literally are this Selma Bridge, right? So I envision Good
Hmm.
Trouble not being just on one side or the other where you cross the bridge, but being a place where both creatives, technologists are building a stronger foundation so you can co-create on the bridge and then cross-pollinate across these skill sets and expertise. And so I think for me to chart that path, like it just is such a clear vision to me. I could hear the grit on the bottom of my boot as I'm walking on that bridge, talking
Mm.
to another, institution or a policymaker or a creative or an AI scientist around how we would apply their perspectives towards this moonshot around reimagining a one-day record label or something, right? Reimagining how artists can have more creative control and ownership and economic opportunity in the things they're creating versus just being patronized for their art.
Mm.
So I think for me that is kind of like that North Star that continues to shine. I it's a big risk and a big bet, but what I have seen is the more I have conversations where things are hard, um, is more where the path illuminates because that's where
Mm.
actually the opportunity lies.
Wow. That's a you pack so much into that visual, right? The idea of crossing the Selma Bridge, the historical reference for those that
Building
don't
it.
know, is during the
Yeah,
civil rights movement. It was a very dangerous bridge to cross. It was deadly.
it was.
Uh,
Yeah.
so this idea that that you see that you're like the bridge, it sounds like in this metaphor, like you're the bridge, right? And you're thinking about
Yeah.
this the tech industry and the resources and the yeah the resources, the knowledge, experience that they have, and then creative people, like you said, maybe they don't speak each other's language. And so part of your sounds like what you're creating is an environment where one, there's a willingness and ability for them to
Yeah.
spend some time learning each other's
Yes.
language and seeing how they can
Hmm.
build something that makes sense, that both will
Yeah.
benefit from, rather than, hey, come and be a consumer here, or let me recruit you to do the things that I want you to do for this thing, and vice versa. Um, so
Yeah.
where does this desire come from for you? Like if you had to think about your life and your family life, or the relationships that you have around you, who did you see or who were you inspired by that moved you in this direction? You mentioned John Lewis, so it sounds like he might be an inspirational
Oh,
figure for you,
yeah,
but others?
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my grandpa has been a really big presence in my life and still continues to be. I think you were there the year, like it was literally 6 days after he had passed, and we were all in DC, and I was still numb. Like I was still feeling that he was present in this earth. And actually, I like to think that anyone who has met me has met a part of him. And that's like kind of like the legacy that I love to carry. But he's been a big influence for me because you talk about a man who, he is a World War II veteran, captain in the Philippine Air Force. People comment about my handwriting to this day. They don't know the years I suffered where he made me rewrite essays by mistake,
Well,
punctuation.
mm,
But there was that sense of like discipline and pride of quality of work that was like really ingrained in me. But it wasn't from a perfectionist lens. It was more of a, if you're really going to take your time to do something, take your time to do it well. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so I think, he's just been a constant encouragement. I keep a letter that he wrote me when I was actually living in my car in the Bay Area. I don't know if you know this, but I lived in my car for 9 months in the Bay Area
no, I did not know
because I
this.
I could not afford to get an apartment at the time. I was making like $5 an hour selling cell phones at the mall.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just so many things I think that like this pioneering spirit of stuff, figuring things out, being resourceful. Like my grandpa taught me a lot about the mental meditational state you need to be in with yourself. He taught me about competition. One of the things I always remember is him saying, oh, I think I was like 7. And we're talking about like tests in the Philippines, when you're like big thing was like testing time for students, or Eastern education is a whole other thing. But he always said, you've got to be the fiercest competitor in that classroom. And, you've got to win and figure out what that all looks like. By putting in the dedication and the discipline to learn what it is you're going to be doing when you're in that room and you're testing. And so while many would say that's a full stop, be competitive, do the thing, at all costs win, he always followed it up with a question. And by the way, do you know who your fiercest competitor is?
Hmm.
And I'd be like, I don't know, John Paul sitting two things over who has a nanny and a tutor. I don't know. No, and he would always hearken it back to you. Your last best self is your fiercest competitor because you
Mm,
always got to figure out how you dive in deep and really lock in on what it's going to be. So my grandpa definitely, my kids always teach me a lesson. I mean, you want to learn about yourself and the future. I mean, I have three wonderful children who teach me every single day compassion, patience, resilience, and the art of just asking the question without overthinking.
right.
I mean, my 3-year-old probably teaches me more about courage than I could ever admit, just because he will ask. He doesn't even ask why. I think he gets really specific about why not.
A can-do
But
spirit. I think most of us as
yeah,
children have that, and we're
to
taught to
suppress
bottle it.
it,
Yeah, to
right?
suppress it. We
Yeah,
bottle it.
yeah.
We turn the dial down. So
Dim your
I'm
light kind of thing,
exactly. And I wonder
right?
if your son is really teaching you this, or is your son reminding you of it?
Reminding. Yeah, yeah, it probably is. I mean, it's a mixture of both, and I think, the greatest things in this life that I think I will ever have the opportunity to be a part of is being a parent to these kids that are learning about the world in the same way that I'm also learning about the world, but with a little bit more context, right? And so, another one of my amazing heroes that I really, really look up to, I would have to say, again, somebody I don't know personally, but has left kind of like that imprint for me, um, is definitely Marianne Williamson. I mean, she talks a lot about the spirit of loving yourself enough to break your own heart, almost kind of thing.
Hmm.
She has that poem, which I know Mark
Yeah.
reads every single time, which is about us really,
Our deepest
our
fears,
our, our
not that we're
deepest fear.
inadequate. Hmm.
Exactly. It's that we are actually powerful beyond measure. What does that
Yeah.
look like? And so I think there's a lot of folks that I glean on their teachings
Mm.
and where they've been that I kind of keep very, very close when when I'm in a problem or I'm thinking through. And yeah, I mean, I can't ask for anything more, but I would definitely say my grandpa, my kids, and then just the many opportunities I have access to, authors like Marianne Williamson who go there with you, right?
Mm.
I don't know her personally. I'd love to at some point, but a lot
Have
of
you
the
seen her
work that she
speak?
has done, I have seen her speak. Yeah,
Yeah, she's fascinating.
yeah.
Do you follow the Course in Miracles?
The what?
Do you follow the Course in
No,
Miracles? No? Okay. Yeah.
no, no. I haven't. Return to Love has been really an amazing. I mean, I reread it almost every year around my birthday.
Mm.
So it's been really fascinating for me that I take something away new from it every time. And I
Hmm.
think this year my takeaway from it, I just had a pretty big birthday. This year when I reread it, I think the takeaway for me was that we are love.
Yeah.
How do we define that is what matters, right?
Mm.
And so I think in that connection, I mean, in the way you connect with people,
Yeah.
um, show your hand in how you love, right?
Mm.
And so I
Interesting.
think that's really big. I mean, like going into spaces and communities I've never been in before, it takes a certain amount of courage and love for yourself to
Mhm.
be out there and be okay if people are like, I don't really know who you are, and I could care less. Right.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
people to lean in and be like, are you ready for this opportunity? Even when you're not, you're like, yes, I'll lean in. Right. And so it's that, how much do you
Yeah.
love yourself to either break your heart open enough?
Mm.
Or how much do you love yourself where you're like, actually, no, I'm gonna kind of protect this, dim my light a little bit and observe a little bit more. And so I
Mm.
think, we have one precious life. And I always
Yeah.
like to say this, Valerie, is we are one decision or connection away from a radically different life.
Yeah.
I think that's also what
I agree.
keeps me on the mission, which keeps me mutually curious. Again, we're back to
Hmm.
that.
Being mutually curious.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said a couple very interesting things here about how much do you love yourself Do you love yourself enough to break your own heart? I think it's interesting. Um, what I got, I mean, I read A Return to Love also, a couple decades ago, I think now. And I do
Yeah.
I follow a lot of her talks,
Course in
Marianne
Miracles.
Williamson's
Yeah.
talks, and the A Course in Miracles and all of that. But I think the piece that comes to mind as you're sharing this is how much love I have, not only for myself, like you were saying, because I agree that I think we have been endowed with gifts and talents and abilities, and there's a purpose for us being here. And if we can tap into that and get all the other stuff, the unnecessary stuff out of the way, we can be of service and make huge contributions and impact. Um, but I've also learned professionally to have love for the people I work with, right?
Yes.
Which it took me
Yes.
a while,
Not
especially in
taboo.
this, yeah, in this business context. Sometimes we make love in this culture such a like, ooh, oh my God, that's
Yeah.
inappropriate. Like you can't really love people. Oh,
Yeah.
harassment, or whatever.
Yeah.
But not the love that makes other people uncomfortable. I'm not stalking people, putting love notes on their cars or whatever. But I think really finding it was so the five love languages, for example, is a
hmm
resource that I
Big
use in my
work.
personal life. But the same author, Gary Chapman, partnered up with this other gentleman, Dr. Paul White, and they wrote the five
Mm,
languages of appreciation in the workplace, for example.
mm,
And so I find myself, and I have found myself in the past when I'm working with leaders in helping them identify that the things that they're wanting to do for their clients or for their peers or for um their leaders, right? Or their
hmm
direct reports
hmm
is an act of love, is
Oh
an
yeah.
act of love for
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
And the five love languages hold true, right? Sometimes that the love is shown because
They
we
hold
do
true.
something for
Absolutely.
someone else. Hey, let's make your life easier. Let's make this product better for you. Let's make this path and this process more convenient, more effective, right? That's love,
hmm
of act of service. When you're thinking about love and quality time, hey, let's spend some one-on-one. Show me, catch me
Yeah.
up with what's going on. Oh, this person
Yeah.
is having a breakdown. They're having a problem with their system. Let me spend some time
hmm
on the phone with them trying to troubleshoot. That's
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
quality time, right? And so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So I think in the practical sense that there are all ways in which we show love to other people. But I think that what you're talking about is like an all-encompassing love for what you do, love for the people who have shown you the way,
Yeah.
who help you
Yeah.
tap into that, to remind you of that, and then take the
Yeah.
actions that you
Well, I
take.
mean, you also can't love from an empty tank, right? And I think
Mm,
a lot of like what I've lived in my own experiences has been this, dim your light, and that is love. Actually, that is not love. People
mm,
cannot love you for a fraction of who you are.
mm,
And if you tend to fractionalize yourself because you feel like you can't be your full authentic self in things, it really doesn't bode for meaningful deep connection.
mm,
It's very surface level. Maybe it gets you there on some plane, but at some point it teeters off into the transactional, and then you never speak again, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember blah blah blah, right? And so
yeah.
I think for me it's and this lesson, I mean, I've been doing this work for the past few years, and kudos to Google X and the Thrive program led by one of my dearest friends, Maya Rudan, who created the Transformation Lab there. We really got to tap into this era of what does belonging mean to you.
Mm,
We talk a lot about belonging, and so much of that is the route to connection as well. Because you cannot
yeah.
connect if you don't feel like you belong. But here's
Mhm.
the thing, you must first belong to you so that whatever room you walk into, you're already present.
You're
Because
there.
if you
Yeah.
don't, like there's no, and again, this might sound super controversial when it comes to like the work of belonging, right? Because people have that's inclusion. Inclusion is different from belonging. Belonging, I think, is very it is you,
Mm,
just as how love is, because you cannot give off an energy that you have not experienced yourself.
yeah.
So, and that's where I think the root
Oof,
of connection really lies.
that's the root. Well, I want to double click a little bit on this idea of connection, because one of the
Yeah.
things that you express a deep passion for is bringing like tech and creatives together.
Yep.
We're living at a time, right? 2025, we're living at a time
hmm
where resurgence, not resurgence, but this surge of technological advancement. I mean, it has not slowed
Mm-hmm.
down for decades now, right? And we're at a
Mm-hmm.
point where artificial intelligence is becoming a household word and tool. So, you're a pioneer, right? You see the future, you interact with the future, you're thinking about what people need. What do you see when it comes to like building relationships and connections, authentic, true relationships where there's mutual curiosity, when people are often utilizing, leveraging, distracted by, intimidated by technology?
Yeah, yeah. I think first and foremost, we need to ensure that our own relationship and understanding with technology. Technology is a tool. Technology is a way to help extend you. Do not use technology if it is meant to be something that is a substitute of who you are,
Hmm. How
because
would you
you have to be
know?
able to pour into it. Well, I mean, some folks that are using like ChatGPT now, right? There's an intent to be able to prompt what you need for it to come out of. It's not going to guess for you. Of course, there's this whole, we won't get into it now, but this agentic layer where it can make decisions on your behalf.
Hmm.
They can't make decisions without an input, right?
Mm-hmm,
And so I
mm-hmm,
actually think authentic connection, especially in an age where technology, and I spend a lot of my time in it. I mean, I'm in AI infrastructure all day long. I've already spoken at like 8 different AI conferences to date,
mm-hmm,
starting this year, and have a few more that's coming in this year. And a lot of what I actually talk about in those AI conferences is not the technology. I talk about the human interface,
yeah,
that's actually needed to be able to ask the question that's probably not been trained yet into the
mm-hmm,
model. And
yeah,
when it has, then it allows for you to ask a deeper question. And so, again, coming back full circle to this mutual curiosity, there is a mutual curiosity that we need to apply with technology, but we have to make sure that when looking at connecting with technology, that we are still the ones that are defining,
yeah,
right, the input.
yeah.
And so a lot, like, the more advanced in technology you want to be or desire to be to leverage it, the more basic your understanding of humanity's needs must be.
All right,
It
say that
can't.
again.
So you have to have such a good basic understanding of how to be a good human to be a superpower user of technology. Yeah, because
I'm so glad you said
otherwise,
that. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah.
Otherwise,
Well, I mean, because then otherwise, then what is the point, right? Then you're not
mm,
really leveraging technology. You're kind of delegating it to be the thing, and then you're going to go complain about it later that it's taken over. Robots are taking over the world. Who made the dang
mm.
robots? The humans, right? so,
You
so
tell them
I
what to
think
do.
there's. Well, I mean, just saying, right? And there's
uh,
there is this, there's debate around consciousness around that, et cetera. I actually think, like, ever since the wave of AI and all of that has come together, and now there's many layers of it, a lot of what I talk about is like going back to basics,
mm,
right? Looking people in the eyes, having that
mm,
connection, sitting with something uncomfortable versus solving it with something right away. And here
mm,
is a 3-point strategy around it. Now let's sit with it for a second. How does it feel? A computer cannot process a feeling through its body.
mm,
Right? There's a lot of somatic work that think needs to happen on a
absolutely.
human level to
Yeah.
really go back to that connection that you need. And so
Mm,
I think that for me is real. And I'm going through that right now. I mean, like, I have agents, like tech agents, AI stuff. I build on platforms. I have a whole tech
yeah.
stack that works this whole thing, but nothing replaces the fact that, if my kid is not feeling great, I'm not going to send a robot and be like, go see how it's doing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm going to
Hey,
sit
chat,
there.
can you check and
Yeah.
see?
Yo.
Does he
No,
still
but
have a fever?
I mean, as much as I love that movie Big Hero 6 from Pixar, where you got that
Mm,
fluffy robot nurse, right? Like, I actually think, like, there is no substitute to human, soul to soul connection,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you can't really explain that. It's a feeling, it's a spiritual thing that tends to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Well, it's I think what it reminds me of is I had a in my podcast Not Quite Stranger several years ago, I had a guest who worked in a lot of he worked in technology for most of his life, and a lot of the stuff he did was in cybersecurity, and just there's just a lot
Mm.
that he brought to the conversation. And one of the things that he said that really struck me was how the the technology is evolving by leaps and bounds, just like on a daily, it feels like something new and better and faster has happened. Um, the challenge is we as humans have to remember that we also have the responsibility to develop ourselves, right? To be
Yes,
better, deeper, faster, and
100%.
not that the use of technology doesn't
100%.
sometimes help that, but what you were saying earlier is that we have to be amazing humans first. And
Mm-hmm.
amazing humans, and I'd love to hear your definition of what amazing humans would be, but I think, perhaps you and I resonate with the same message as coaches. My the way I express it is, helping people do what makes them come alive. And so a sense of
Mm-hmm.
aliveness, a
Mm-hmm.
sense of hope, which gives them courage, which gives them creativity. They become more conscious
Mm-hmm.
and self-aware of themselves. They have an ability to really connect with others, to understand, to have empathy, to have
Yeah.
compassion, and then also to be creative, right? To this idea of them being able to take
Mm-hmm.
all of that input, all of that information, all that self-awareness, and then do something of meaning and contribution. That's for me is a path to
I
becoming
love that.
even better humans, right? So what's
Yeah.
your version of that?
Yeah, I think I have, in the work that I do, so I have part of my coaching program is called the Soul Architect.
Mhm.
And I help kind of power design questions, is what we call it. You use a dose of design thinking.
Hmm.
This is what I've done with like some of my VC founders,
Mhm.
is I actually relate to them on a technical level.
Yeah.
So I talk about like a three-tier architecture of culture that is for individual teams and organizations. You have your operating system, your mission, your vision, your values, your mindsets, what you believe, your application layer, the teams and tools that help bring that operating system to life. And then the
Mm.
feature layer, which is just the goals and the OKRs and the objectives and the revenue targets and the things you want to accomplish. Most of the debug, I'm now talking in tech terms, most of the debug that tends to happen is people looking at the feature and the application layer, everything else external to the operating system,
Mm.
right? And so for me, I think the guiding question that I always ask, my power design question to myself when I put myself through the exercise is, how might I, because again, it's like a design form
Design
question,
thinking, yeah.
how might I be of service to the unknown hidden potential in others?
Hmm.
That's my question. That's it. And that allows me to be, I'm going to say it again, mutually curious because I don't know. I don't know what is the unknown potential in
Yeah.
others. And so, therefore, how might I even have a plan to go about that without even having the discernment to ask and be
Mm.
curious and be of service to it? And so, I think for me, being in that kind of work, and it sounds so simple, right? But it's really hard when you have ego that you wrestle with, when you have
Mm.
circumstances and environments that and everyone does, right?
Yeah.
Or that critical voice in your head that's like, you can't do that, why are you
Mm.
doing that? And so for me, it's that, how might I be of service to that unknown hidden potential in others? It keeps me moving because it assumes that
Already
every
has
human
it.
being already has an unknown hidden potential.
Yeah.
Keyword hidden, because not everyone's going to bare their souls because it's not safe
Mm.
and everyone's a little broken, right? So I
Mm.
think like that for me has been fulfilling, and I take that in down to the unit economics of investing in a startup. What
Mm.
does that actually look like? How do I talk to the limited partners and investors and talk to them about the hidden potential of the human that is behind the product and the market and the industry they're investing in? I
Mm.
think that's the special sauce, which is weird. I say I've never done this job before in this manifestation as an
Sure.
investor. But I have done this job before as a salesperson, as an
Yeah.
operator, as a
Yeah.
product manager, as a talent leader, as a chief HR officer, as a
Yeah.
whatever WYSIWYG it was that I came into.
Mm.
Um, and it's literally applying that same equation to very different variables, right?
Interesting.
And then continuing that. And so I think that's what that is for me. It's that unknown hidden potential that allows for me to stay
Mm.
curious around what is that for others.
Yeah, unknown hidden potential. I love that. Yeah, this idea that we can always learn to be even more human than what we think we are. Even more beautiful,
Absolutely.
even more powerful, even more influential,
Hey,
even more at peace, even more hopeful, even more everything.
yeah,
Mm.
grab the tissues. You'll be crying a lot when you realize how human you really are.
Ah!
A lot of tears of
Yeah.
joy and also maybe melancholy, just going, wow, that was a lot.
Oh, that's much. Yeah, because we do get really, I think, this distracted, discouraged,
Mhm, mhm.
diminished. I mean, I'm not saying that we're
Mm,
just like it's not just others doing unto us, but I think we buy into a lot of false advertising about what it means to be
we
human.
do. We
We
do.
fall into all the trappings being the core.
Mhm.
I love a good not near death experience story. That's like I love them. I have read multiple books about this topic. I love watching
Wow.
YouTube videos of people who've gone through it. I've had a couple conversations with people who've experienced like near-death experiences
Woo!
from all different backgrounds, cultures. You know, my favorite book, if I had to recommend one to everybody, is "Dying to Be
Please.
Me" by Anita Moorjani.
Ooh,
Uh,
dying to be me. I'm gonna have to write
"Dying
that
to
down.
Be
Hang on, let me
Me,"
grab my pencil.
yes.
Yep.
She has tons of content on YouTube as well. So if you ever wanted to hear her talk about it, um, and the reason I bring this up is because watching and listening to those stories reminds me of what humanity really is. And these
Mhm,
are all individuals who had some life-threatening experience, whether it was an illness, an accident, or some, horrific, tragic thing. And
mhm,
they got to the point where they hit that that threshold, the threshold to the
mm,
ever after. And it looks different. If
mm.
you get caught up in the like, oh, did they see Jesus? Did they see Buddha? Did they see Allah? Like you miss it. If you think about that, you're missing it. But every
Yeah,
single one of them, one of the images that comes through and a lot of the writing or talking about it is they uncover that they're a thread in the tapestry of humanity. And that every single thread, you pull on the thread, it moves the threads below, above, beyond, behind it. It impacts every thread around it. And this idea that we have unconditional love on the other side, and this idea, and if you listen to some of Marianne's talks, she often talks about in the Course in Miracles, for example, this idea that heaven is not a place or it's not a destination, that it's a is
mhm.
a is a recognition of our oneness, is a quality of
Right,
life that we experience, like deep connection with another human, deep connection with the humans around us, deep connection with this planet that we're inhabiting, and the
right.
reminder that that is the truth in which
That is
we're
it.
living, and not all the artificial stuff that has been constructed that take our time, energy, financial well-being, right? So I mean, I'm a little deeper than I thought I would go in that conversation,
Yay,
but
I love it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love that idea of us being, the human, the best human we can be, essentially, in order to have this connection and this
absolutely.
empowering tool, right? That we use as a tool,
Absolutely.
not as a replacement for
Yeah,
human.
that's
Oh,
right.
oh my
That's
gosh.
right. We
AJ,
went all the way everywhere, didn't we?
y'all, I told y'all we'll have fun. We had fun. We acted silly.
We
We did
did.
all that, right?
Mhm,
We had
mhm.
all this soul
And
surfing
we
that
was
we did.
woo,
And then we also,
snorkeling.
you and then all your VC talk, right? We had all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah,
So I'm so grateful
yeah.
to have
Thank
you in my
you.
circle of peeps. I just enjoy being around you. I can't wait for the next time that we don't see each other and then see each other as if no time had ever passed. I can't wait for
That's
that.
right. That is it. It's happening. It's already happened because
It's
remember,
already.
don't you remember October 2026?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember the future.
The
When
best
I
probably
cross the
ever.
threshold, I see AJ on the other side.
That's why you look so familiar. I
Oh
I remember you from the future.
my gosh, I've seen
You know, you should try that in a conversation with some. You look so familiar. I think I've seen you in the
you before.
future
I've
before.
seen you future. I've seen you like 6 months from now. Wait, what?
You.
You crazy.
Oh, so
Oh my
good.
gosh. AJ, is there anything else you want to share?
Thank
Anything you
you.
say before we close our time together?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll leave with one last thing. And it's more really a question for the folks that are listening,
Mm,
right? Who are you when you are your best self?
mm, mm.
Because connection is going to stem from that in any
Yeah.
which way,
Hmm.
right? And if you can't remember what that is, like when was the last time you felt like you were?
Yes. Your best
Good
self.
reminder.
Fabulous. Thank you for that wonderful reminder and for gracing us
Mm,
with your joy and your depth and your soulfulness and all the
thank
wonderful
you.
things. Yeah, and bringing your grandpa to the podcast. Thank you, grandpa.
Hey, this is his first podcast. Thanks, thanks, Abe.
Abe, thank you. I appreciate having you. Nice to meet you, Abe. Again. My dear friend, thank you so much for being here. And those of you who tuned in to this episode, thank you so much for your time and your attention. I
Yes.
hope that this conversation has stirred up some things in you, maybe questioned some things. And like AJ just asked, what is it that will take for you to be the best self, right? Your best self.
Mhm.
If you haven't already
Woo-hoo.
subscribed, please do so. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Circle of Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share with someone in your circle. And if you're curious about the upcoming book, visit valeriehope.com for updates and extras. Until then, stay connected.